In coma, it is a state when you lose the first three senses, but you still hold on to the sense of sight. Mentally, there is alertness in sight. And sound, you still can hear the sound. And you have not left the body. You stay in that limbo state for a longer time. Sense of action is completely frozen. The body is frozen. But you can hear what people are saying. They want to respond, they cannot respond. This is very close, very similar to death experience. When you die, what happens to you? First, the mind withdraws from the five senses with its impressions. Sense of touch goes away. Then, taste goes away. Then smell goes away. These three things goes away. It carries only the two senses along with it still active. Sound and sight. Like you are on the hot air balloon and you see everything happening down there. You can't do anything about the traffic that's happening there. You just see, oh, there is a traffic jam. But you are in the hot air balloon, you keep moving. So first 3 days is intense, and then after the 3 days or 3 nights, the soul, when it starts getting adjusted to the other realm, it keeps moving away from this. Once leave the body, then the time zone changes. 6 months is day and 6 months is night. 1 whole year is 1 day. Very few souls, they are so earthborn, they don't go for a long time. They stick on here. Very few. 0.1%, you can say. So the last rites in the Hindu tradition is something so fantastic. Because the person is still can hear, they tell him, you have lived a grand life. Your body is made up of 5 elements. Let the earth element go back to the earth, water element go back to water, fire will dissolve in fire, air goes into air element, and you are light and you merge in the universal light. That's where you have come from. You have no blemish, you have no sin, you have no impressions. You are just pure joy. You are love incarnate. Go back to your source. May you be free, may you be free, may you be free. Bless this whole creation. You are free. You need nothing now. Go. From there, bless everybody. And this is what the mantras are chanted. It's such a relief. Wow. Somebody at that time, moment said, you are not the mind, you are not the intellect, you are not the thoughts. You are neither this, you are not that. You are not this, you are not this. You become free of this, you become free of that. You go to a place of total freedom. Total freedom. Usually, people, when they are nearing to their death, they lose interest in food. Some lose interest in food. Some don't. Some crave more food towards the end of life. In that case, within those 10 days, it's good to feed some people the food they were very fond of. So when they smell those food and those things, their spirit becomes, okay, like I have had this food. Give them some sort of relief. Within the 10 days, that's done. Many times, seekers, when you meditate, you find, oh, nothing is happening to me. Meditation is not happening. You know why? Some of those merits are being passed down to your forefathers. It is something that you have to, there is no escape from it. When you meditate, a portion of your meditation, a portion of that merit, whenever you do anything good, you give charity, that good vibes are passed on. Those who gave you the body. Somebody gave you the body. And because of that only you are doing everything that you are doing. So, to that person, an amount of merit that what you do gets automatically transferred, like inheritance. Like in this world, when somebody passes on, dies, then you inherit, no? Automatically all their loans or their earnings just falls on your head, right? In the same way, in the subtle also, these things get transferred. Just before going to bed, just have a thought, just think very strongly about something. In the dream also same thought will come up in it. And as soon as you wake up in the morning, that will be your first thought. Whatever is the strongest impression in the mind, that persists. When a person, when he's dying with all the memories of chicken and chicken and chicken. His consciousness with the strongest impression at the moment of death, that was chicken. His mind, soul gets into that faulty form. The last days of life is much more important than the whole life. To emphasize this, in India there are many stories. A very enlightened saint, a rishi, was on the bank of a river meditating, and he saw a young deer in the water. So he jumped in and saved the deer. It had hurt its leg and he cared for it. And then he got so attached to the deer. When he died, he became a deer. This is the only instance where an enlightened person, it's said almost it's impossible for a liberated man to retrieve back into an animal body. It's one of the impossibilities. And this example, Jada Bharat, is quoted throughout, just to tell you that last impression is most important, that even he became a deer. Your strongest cravings and your strongest fear and aversion determines your next life. Rats are born as cats. They are not born as dogs. Some animals are afraid of only some other animals. Whichever animal they are afraid of, that is the next body for them. Because the strongest fear is the last impression in the mind. And that gives rise to the next birth. More than father and mother, the grandparents are attached to the kids. So when they leave the soul, they will be born to them. Usually this happens. That's why they keep the same name also. You know, the kings usually used to give the names of the grandfather to the grandchild. George the Fifth and George the Seventh, and this tradition has come from Vedic times. Because the most attachment for a person is with grandchildren in old age. You are born in the same family, to the same, because of your attachment, because your world is limited. You are not open to everybody in the world. The attachment is so strong within the same family, or if someone has a deep aversion towards somebody, they are born to them. Different things work with certain voltage. iPad can plug in with only certain voltage. If it's too high voltage, this will break. Similarly, these bulbs are all of certain definite voltage. Fridge is of definite voltage. Torch cell works with certain amount of electricity. Similarly, in the subtle body and causal body's combination, each soul gets certain amount of voltage, energy with. When a man, woman meet, that moment of conception, the energy that they have brings that type of soul into the planet. The union of man and woman determines what type of soul is going to come, which voltage soul can come there. Suicide is like saying, I'm so cold, and removing all your jackets. It's like a child wants to go to sleep, but it is crying so hard. You want to sleep, but you don't want to sleep, and so you cry. Similarly, you are so cold, instead of taking more blankets on you, you are removing all your clothes off. So this is exactly suicide. But suicide does not get that person out of the misery for which he is committing suicide. In fact, it remains with them for a longer time. Then they come back again. They have to be born again. When you are rid of all the cravings and aversion, do you still come back? Yes, then you come back out of compassion. And even then you come back as a free person. You want to do something, you do it in the world and go.
Everything in your body is speaking this language, it is dying. And everything in the body is programmed and prepared for that. So when everything that you know is going to go, just an empty space seems fearful. If that is not there, when the time to lose this comes, you become desperate and it's natural. So how do I prepare?
Namaste. My question is how to tune or prepare your mind for the certainty of death, for your close ones, your family, something that we all know is real, but to come to terms with it during the process of life, after especially mid-age life, how does one live with that right?
This happened in 2020, just before the pandemic, 3 weeks before the pandemic. There was a book that was in the writing process or in the editing process for almost 8 years. Usually that's not my time scale, but somebody was editing it, taking limitless amount of time, and they keep coming back to me, one more question, one more question, one more question. Then I said, it looks like this is going to be a memorial book. Then in February 2020, I said it must be published now. They said, no Sadhguru, there's some more work we need to do this, this and that. I said, no, it has to go now. They said, why? We waited so long, some more little things, Sadhguru, just spend 3 days with us, we'll put it together. I said, no, it must go now. Then the pandemic broke out. The book got published and pandemic broke out and death was all over the place. It's very important that, especially Western societies have made it like it's a taboo to utter the word death. No, everybody should know that we are mortal. Because it's a limited… essentially mortality means it's a limited amount of time. If you know it's a limited amount of time, you would organize yourself for that. If you think you're immortal, you would live a stupid life. Yes or no? See, the biggest problem with most human beings is they think other people die. They don't know this will die. Those dying people, they die. No, you and me die. Right now we can say we're living, or we can say we're dying. Actually, it's the same term. Right now we're dying. The process will be complete one day. We hope to kick the can, but we know we're dying. If you know you're dying, everything in your body is speaking this language, it is dying. It doesn't matter how energetic you are, how exuberant you are, still it's dying, isn't it so? If you pay enough attention. So, instead of trying to make a philosophy out of death, you must pay little more attention to the life that you are. Then you know clearly you're dying. And everything in the body is programmed and prepared for that, except your silly mind. And that's what you want to prepare, I understand. But everything in the body, every cell in the body knows it's dying and it's preparing for it. And of course it's trying to buy a little more time. So how do I prepare? See, when it's close, if you try to prepare somebody, they will get paranoid. Because you must understand, everything that you think is me is going to go right now. Your body is going to go, your thoughts are going to go, your emotions are going to go, your personality is going to go, your house, your relationships and the works, your job, everything will go. So when everything that you know is going to go, just an empty space seems fearful. You can't prepare against that. When I was about 2.5 years of age, for some reason my mother was unwell, and so I went and lived with my aunt for about nearly 2 years, maybe a little less than 2 years. She was only 18 years of age. She was just married and she was an exuberant, joyful, loving human being. She took me as her own and not as her child, I became her buddy. So she took care of me well. I was there for nearly 2 years and then I came back, but we maintained that relationship more as a friend than an aunt. Very joyful, exuberant, loving human being. Everything in her life well, her children came and, the usual things, boys went to America, girls got married as they wanted, whatever Indian dream happened. Small aberrations maybe, but nothing major, everything went well. When she was 69 years of age, she got some tuberculosis in the brain and they said she has just a few months left. She lost it. It was so painful to see her, such a joyful, exuberant human being. Suddenly she lost it completely. And then she passed on like that. Then I saw, this is what spiritual process means. That means something beyond your physical and psychological space, there is another little space. Once you have this little thing, suddenly losing the body, losing the mind is not such a big issue. You have a place to stand. If you don't have that, then suddenly everything looks like hopeless, just threatening. So, this needs to happen. As a part of this, we started in southern India what is called as one-drop spirituality. Everybody must have at least one drop spirituality. They don't have to become, enlightened and knowledgeable and stuff. At least one drop, something more than the body must be with you always. If that is not there, when the time to lose this comes, you become desperate and it's natural. So this is very important.